6 Webster University students pound and hand-pack dirt into tires to help build a playground. These students travel to Taos, New Mexico over spring break for an off-the-grid class. Taj Work enrolled in the course after seeing a flyer posted for the class.
I've never experienced a class in college that was like this. Like, we have study abroad, but this is something new to me, and I think to everyone else too.
Over the week, students lived in and toured earthships in the Taos community. Earthships are sustainable homes made of recycled materials.
There's going to be a spiral staircase here, which goes up to the upstairs level here. And let's take a look inside.
Tires packed with dirt and aluminum cans connected with cement form the structure of the homes.
Protection around it with bottles and...
Glass bottles are used in construction for design elements, such as in stairs and walls. Zena Colshorn has been living in her earth home for many years, which her 2 sons constructed for her.
My pleasure to show off. And may I boast, we didn't spend $1 on labor. It was all brothers and sisters and mother and friends on the weekend. And it's a house built of remnants of broken tiles, or when my son finished a house for a client. You can just use your imagination and let it go in a place like this.
She's one of the coolest women I've ever met.
We can probably get something.
I would love to come back and live here for 3 months with her.
There are 3 earthship communities in Taos. The students stayed at the Greater World Earthship community. Later in the week, they hiked steep mountains to visit the Reach community. Reach was the very first earthship community to be created. Some houses look like something out of Dr. Seuss. Others look like spaceships. Some have wonderful views. Others have gorgeous indoor planters.
It's fun though.
Devin Walk said he really enjoyed the different houses he toured.
Well, we've met some really interesting people on these tours, and that's what's really struck me, how really clever these people are. They're really creative, especially with the ways they make these houses. I mean, I'm just struck by how cool they look.
The houses are beautiful and creative in design, but they are also completely off the grid. Julia Griffey co-taught the course for the first time.
So I'm digressing. So what does that mean? So you're not tied into anything. So basically, if you live off the grid, that means that you can live anywhere. You don't have to worry about there being sewer tie-ins. You don't have to worry about water tie-ins. You're collecting your own water. You're dealing with your own sewage. You're collecting your own power, and you're living in a way where you don't need any kind of additional heating source.
The students visited Taos Mesa Brewing to learn more about sustainable buildings. The brewery is brand new and still under construction. Like Earthships, it uses recycled materials. It is not only a place to make beer, but it also doubles as a concert venue. Peter Colshorn, the son of Zena Colshorn, is the founder of Taos Mesa Brewing. He gave students a tour of his soon-to-be business.
Right from the start, the whole idea was to be as self-sufficient, what's the word I'm looking for, just efficient with using resources as much as possible. There's a good word for it, sustainable, yeah. And one, I mean, it's just something that we all kind of believe in. You know, I grew up building earthships. There's no reason to not design a house without taking advantage of the sun. It's just ridiculous. And doing good insulation. And you can make a house super efficient, or you can make, houses that'll just suck energy off the planet. So
students felt the heat coming off of the solar panels. They are used to collect energy from the sun. There is also a system to catch and reuse water. Neil Peterson said the trip ended up being more than he had expectations for.
really enjoyed the brewery. Thought it was a beautiful piece of architecture. I feel that they're going to be very successful in what they're doing, and the shows and the music shows they have are going to be quite an experience with the vista in the background and the desert in the foreground and all that. And this mountain is something else too. I don't get to hang out on top of mountains too often, so.
Alex Henry co-taught the course with Griffey. She lives in her own Earth ship, which she and her husband constructed. Now, her 2 girls grow up there.
That's one of the reasons why we moved back from Seattle, is to have a family here, because I think it's fun. Our children are, they don't know any different, so it's interesting. My daughter, when we were building this addition, she was about 2.5 or 3. We would always go over and get tires from the dump, and she didn't understand that the dump was where you take things. She always thought that was where you could get things, and so it's kind of turning their reality upside down in some ways. You know, they understand that they can't use a lot of water when they're playing outside. Like, they have to teach their friends that you can't just keep the faucet running in our house because it's a catch water system, and then they teach their friends, and that's cool, you know. So they have a little bit different reality than how I grew up in St. Louis. I think Taos attracts people that are trying to maybe check out of the mainstream a little bit, and so for that reason, people are creative and thoughtful about their resource use. I think it's a very poor community. It's also historically an agricultural community, and so people are really scrappy about how they get their food and how they feed their families. And I think it's got a little bit of a rebel undertone, and so that's kind of, I think, part of the origins of it. It's also just a stunning spot. I mean, it's just gorgeous, and so it's easy to be reminded that, like, when you're polluting, it's going to affect this beautiful world, you know.
I think it's interesting to see how other people choose to live outside of what society thinks of as normal. I think it's great. Experiential learning. You can only absorb so much by somebody talking at you, but actually observing it firsthand it's a whole different level of absorption of knowledge. You get to come to your own conclusions and take in your own data versus reading it off a page.
For the Webster University Journal, this is Haley Luke.